Hi, I'm Colin Walker, here with DCTV for DevCentral. We're here with Pete Silva. He's one of the FirePass gurus. He's going to show us some neat stuff, I think, right?
Yeah, we'll show you some neat stuff.
To show us?
We're going to do a little Prelog inspection and protected configurations for FirePass.
Cool. So before we get into it too much, you got to get a demo to show us too, right?
Yeah.
So what is that? If I weren't a FirePass user, what's a Prelog inspection? What's endpoint security? What's it used for?
Sure. So when you are authenticating a user, a lot of times folks will first just think about the user. Are they a valid user? Are they not a valid user? What we do here at F5 and specifically on the FirePass is we take it one more step back. So while we are concerned about the user and if they're a valid user, we're actually more concerned now as a step one of the device that they're coming from. So is it a corporate laptop? Is it their home machine? Is it a PDA device? Does the kiosk that they're coming from allow, ActiveX downloads, or is the laptop up to date with their virus scan? Those sorts of things. So we're taking a step back. Are they coming from a valid device or a trusted device, really? And depending upon its level of trust, and then authenticating the user will then determine what access they get to certain resources.
Hence the name pre-logon.
Pre-logon sequence.
And endpoint security, real briefly, is?
Endpoint security is essentially checking the endpoint device to making sure that it's a trusted device.
Got it. All right, so what do you have to show us?
So first thing, many of you may be used to coming in as a user. So the regular logon screen here on the left, username, password, yours might be customized. It might be, completely.
Canoe on
there, the Koa Outrigger. This is Kailua Beach a couple of summers ago on the windward side of Oahu. And this is the Kamehameha Day races, Outrigger races.
I like it.
So what you want to do is you want to go in as an administrator, actually, and usually you just type your URL with /admin, and you're then to the administrative console.
Right.
And let me get my cards here. We're actually running version 6, so this is the new version here.
This is latest and greatest.
Latest and greatest, actually going to be released tomorrow. So I'm running a release candidate right here, but it still works very good. So the first place we want to go to determine our pre-logon sequences, we want to go down to users. And then we want to go right to endpoint security.
Okay.
The first thing you'll see, if this goes, is just the different inspectors, that are available. Some of the new things with 6.0 is now we can also do a Linux file check and a Mac OS file check,
nice.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a little bit more robust.
Yeah, so usually the Prelog inspectors typically work with just Windows boxes, Win32 machines, and now we're able to start integrating the Linux and Mac machines to be able to check them prior to logon. And then right below endpoint inspectors is pre-logon sequence. And this is where we can create, build, edit, backup, adjust all of our pre-logon inspections. Now I have nothing set now because I want to create one.
Okay.
So create a new sequence. I'll just name it new SE. I don't think I can do underscore SEQUENCE. There are some templates available for you. I keep hitting that little button. So we got client certificate. We can block the Google desktop, working hours. These all are in conjunction to work with what we'll eventually get to is some protected configurations and protected resources. But this is the first step. Coming with every FirePass now is the OpSWAT SDK. And what we've done is we've incorporated the OpSWAT SDK so we can now check for lots of antivirus vendors, firewall vendors, those sorts of things. So I'm going to use a template, Avian Firewall. So we're going to
SDK.
Which uses the OpSWAT SDK, correct. So some other vendors will use third-party verifications. What we'd like to do is to integrate it within FirePass so we're not relying on either a third party or a separate server or those sorts of things. So now we have new sequence here, and if we click edit, it opens up our visual policy editor.
Right.
You'll
seen it before.
Yeah, I think Dan actually did a little section on the visual policy editor.
Sure.
And right here, we've already got a nice little layout done for you. Now, as you can see, these kind of, as probably Dan mentioned, they can get kind of robust is probably a good word to use if you're not careful.
Sure.
But it allows you to map it out on the board and then bring it in here. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to check the OS. Is it a Windows box? Is it a Pocket PC, Linux? And we also now have subsequences.
So it doesn't be one big tree. It can be broken up into little modularized sections kind of thing.
Yeah, and usually that's kind of a weird term to use when you're building these, but it will be by either a Windows box, a Mac box, a PDA. So we can check to see not only if the endpoint is trusted, but also the type of OS that the endpoint is running to then determine if we want to allow them in or not.
Sure.
So right here we can see all these Win32 boxes go immediately down to the subsequence windows. Right here, subsequence windows.
Right.
The first thing we're going to check is if they're running a firewall. So the cool thing about this is you can even just click right here on the firewall check itself. La 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 la. Have you guys heard the one about the priest, the rabbi, and the...
And that one's on the screen over here somewhere?
Yeah.
Without any rabbis, though.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
So with each of these inspectors, you can click on the individual inspector themselves, and then you'll get the edit the actions if you want, and you then would click on the description, which will then open the details of the endpoint. So this one is enable Windows Firewall if there are no other firewalls present.
Oh, interesting.
So if you have Black Ice running and it checks Black Ice, then you won't be prompted with this. If you have other firewalls, local firewalls running, then you won't be checked. But I'm going to set it to enable. So if the firewall isn't running, it'll automatically enable it.
Enable it, and it's enabled.
And it is enabled.
There you go.
So next we check for firewall. It's running. We're going to go on to check for antiviruses. If it's installed, we're going to log on deny. If it's a fallback, we're going to log on deny. But what we can do down here, as we're still on this branch, is click on log on denied, and you can put in a custom messages. You must enable your firewall before connecting.
So that when people get denied log, they know why.
They know why, but in the step before, if you remember, we enabled that for them automatically.
Right.
So if either they're unsure what to do or they feel like they don't want to, enable their firewall, you can enable it for them for protection. Antiviruses.
So you just click on the check for antiviruses link.
Check for antiviruses. Again, just like every other of the endpoint inspectors, it'll give the name, it'll give the description. You click on the description, it'll then bring up the details for that endpoint inspector. We're not going to scan immediately because I really don't feel like it, but antivirus 1, antivirus 2, antivirus 3, so you can set up maybe your corporate antivirus, what typical home users do, or, as you can see, there is quite a few pre-built in. I believe the total is now up to something like 32 vendors and over 125 different.
What's on there? McAfee.
So we got McAfee, we got Trend Micro, we got F-Secure, we got the free AVG on here.
All the big ones are on there.
Absolutely. Even Yahoo, SBC, Earthlink, so even all the smaller vendors, if you will, are built in here.
Nice.
I'm just going to choose any supported. You can put in a particular engine version, a database signature, and also force protection. What force protection is when you go through, let's click update, is when you go through, it'll ask you again, do you want to turn your antivirus on? Do you want to turn your antivirus off? I can show you how that works if you like.
Sure.
So we actually do this for our own internal system. And this is actually probably pretty good because this will show you exactly what the scan process looks like.
All right. Did you lose your network connection there?
I shouldn't have. Fox is up, right?
Should be. We're all waiting on technology.
We keep the .com on.
So I heard.
Hey, you know what? Let's try it with IE.
A wise man once told me. Huh. Well.
That's kind of no good, isn't it?
Kind of no good.
Alrighty then. Let's go back to my box.
Let's do that.
Okay, so now let's close this panel. So we get the hint. We can also, if you want to do, I think Dan again showed you this, is the way you add inspectors is you just click on, actually, why don't we add this one up here? We'll add a go. And what we want to do is write to log on log. So what this little setting does is it just captures the logon for the end user. So if there are any errors and such, you'll want to write to log on log so you can then get the log of what particularly happened.
So you just add an inspector that it's going to log whatever information you tell it to.
Yep, and the show, CLIENT, data. This particular one, when you log on log, I don't know why that's doing it, and show client data will then, if the user fails, the user will then have a log-on area where they can click on the link and it'll then bring up all the information about their box, why they failed, what OS they're running,
sure.
what patches they have applied, and why things didn't go their merry way. Now let's go back to the console. So here, no pre-log on inspection, so what I want to do is the one I just created is click that one.
So now that's going to be applied.
And apply. All right, so now we have the new sequence enabled, and you can see it changes. All these go from edit, edit, edit to the one that's enabled is view.
Yep.
And then view and backup.
Yeah.
There's a little side note. Be careful when you're doing this. So
why's that?
On these others, when you edit them, okay, you get the edit screen and, everything's going great.
Yeah, normal.
Sometimes it can, not confusing, I've done it myself, is you're so used to hitting this edit thing and you hit view, the one that's enabled, by the way, and now it's all blackened out. And you're like, where did the buttons go?
Where did black and white?
Where did
I get it.
Where did the plus go? How come I can't do anything? It's because
you're viewing.
We're just viewing.
It's active. You can't edit it while it's active.
Exactly. Well, you can back up and edit.
Sure.
And when you back up and edit, and this is just, a little sort of clue that oftentimes customers kind of like.
Yep.
Currently in use, if you make the change, it'll take effect immediately. I'm not going to make any changes, but I'm going to go back to console immediately. And as you can see, you now have new sequence backup.
Oh, so there's two of them.
Now there's two of them.
Sure.
So just be careful as you're doing this. As you continue to edit and backup, you may start creating new sequence backup 1, new sequence backup 2, new sequence backup 3, and you're not sure which one may be the correct one or what changes you made. So now we have new sequence running. And let's go back to my box and hit refresh. So it's checking.
It's on the exact same page.
Checking client.
But this time it's actually doing, let's see.
It wants to install the plugin because I'm running Firefox.
Sure.
It'll run the extension. It works just the same with IE. IE would be ActiveX. With Firefox and Mozilla-based browsers, it'll just be Java.
Sure.
It's checking the client.
So tell me what it's doing here is now, since you've created that structure in the pre-login sequence editor, the visual policy editor, and you've applied that, so now we're going to the same box, but now it's forcing us to go through that process. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's going through and checking for your firewall, checking for different things you had specified there, right?
And this is all prior to me even putting in my username and password.
You haven't got the login box yet.
Right, so we're checking the device. Is this a trusted device? And then we'll ask you if you are a valid user.
Right, I got it. Which prevents non-valid users that aren't complying to the standards from even trying to log in.
Exactly. So remember I set up, I'm not going to scan for processes because it'll take a little time, but it recognized my virus scan because I said any engine.
It was valid.
And I get to the logon page. So now let's do this again. Let's disable this.
Turning off your virus scan?
And turning off virus scan.
Okay,
we got the little unthing. You can either type it in, I'll just hit refresh. Hit OK.
So it's that same page.
I'll probably need to do a refresh on here. Let's go to another. Let's do it over here. Do it on this guy. So you can see it in.
Use IE.
Yeah, we'll use IE this time. So you see it in Firefox. Yes. So checking client. Installing, as you can see. So the same thing that it did with the extensions on Firefox, it'll automatically do it in IE.
Okay.
Close that. Sorry for the block there. It's found my Windows firewall running. I could have turned that off too, and it would ask me if I want it turned on.
So I was looking for antivirus stuff.
Right? And see, remember I disabled it? It automatically enabled it for me. Do not scan.
Yeah, look at that. It did. Turn it right back
See
on.
right down here?
Yep.
And I get to log on.
Interesting. So instead of just tossing an error and saying, sorry, you aren't running virus scan, you can't come in, it tried to enable it, it succeeded, and then allowed you to proceed.
Yep.
I like it.
So let's go back in now. And let's do no, because I don't... Oh, okay. Because I don't want 50,000 backups, but that's okay.
Who does?
Sometimes admins do.
Just logging back into the admin page.
Just logging back into the admin. Again, users, endpoint security, Prelog and sequence.
All the inspectors can. That's a lot of different inspectors.
Plenty. I'm going to do no, apply.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to go back into my sequence so I don't, and edit it. And so check for antiviruses, enforces, and force protection enabled. I'm going to ask user.
Oh, so now it'll prompt you, right?
Update, yep. And back to console. And new sequence. Apply.
So you edited that one and now you're reapplying.
Now I'm reapplying it,
Okay.
absolutely. And let's see if I can just hit refresh on this, and if it runs it through again. No, it didn't.
So new session. Huh?
New session.
Yeah.
Checking client.
Same checks.
Firewall, all the usual same checks. And if you remember on that list back then, there are quite a few checks you can do. Not just antivirus, time of day, day of week. If you're looking for a certain registry key that pertains to a corporate image, you can look for that.
Sure.
There are plenty of plenty. Oh, you know what I didn't do?
Didn't disable it.
Didn't
But
disable
it's good. It shows that. So it ran, and since it found it this time, it didn't prompt you, right?
Didn't prompt me.
It didn't bother you about it because it was already there.
Now it's disabled. And let's try this one more time. Checking client. Yeah, that was kind of cool how it immediately turned it on down there in the bottom right. So here now it's asking me the question. Enable virus protection or do not enable.
So it found it. Now it's asking the client if they want to use it.
Absolutely. Now when the previous time we automatically enabled it, this time I can either choose to enable it. Now if I choose no thank you, and nope. Log on denied.
Oh, so it didn't even give you a prompt.
It didn't even allow me to get in. So as far as my pre-log on sequence is concerned, this is an untrusted device.
Right, so it's not even going to let you try and give it passwords.
Nope. And you can obviously give your end user, you must have an antivirus running before you connect to click a new session. Remember that right to log on log?
Yeah.
The first thing, show client data? Now we have this show client info link for a log on denied. We click on that, and this is where we've now captured the information from my unit to then
all the information about your system.
my system, and very easily you would go through and figure out, it would tell you why I failed.
Right.
But then this would be the log on denied form, and the reasons why. So this can also help administrators and even end users troubleshoot if they're unsure of why their log on. Well, this is very clear. You don't have antivirus. Okay, fair enough. But there may be
Especially if it's a custom policy, right?
Absolutely. Reg key. I mean, I'm an end user. What's a reg key? How do I make a registry entry?
This way, so really, if an end user got this error, they could grab that text and send it to an admin, right?
Yep.
And that admin would then be able to figure out what happens.
Yes.
I like it.
Let's do it one more time.
One more try. What are we trying this time?
Now this time I'll as it asks me, I keep hitting that little thing. So we have down here the virus scan disabled.
Disabled stuff.
Checking firewall. I have my Windows firewall running at home. I'll have whatever my local firewall is. This time I'm going to enable, and it automatically turns back on again without any intervention. That's the one real cool thing, is the end users, if they're not sophisticated with a computer, it can do a lot of this stuff automatically for them.
I like it.
Do not scan. Voila.
And you're in.
And I'm in.
Very cool.
Yep.
I like it. Well, thanks. I appreciate the time to go through the walkthrough.
No problem.
A whole bunch of stuff you can do with that. Looks like you're really just scratching the surface.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to show you in our next episode.
Right.
Tune in for our next episode. We're going to show you how we combine the Prelog on sequence to then attach it to protected configurations and protected resources. So tying the favorites, if you will, for the end users to the Prelog on sequence and the certain protected configurations that you set up if they finally then get authenticated.
Very cool. Well, we'll check back in for that soon.
Excellent.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, this is Colin Walker, back for some more here for DCTV with Pete Silva on the FirePass stuff.
How's it going, guys?
Not so bad. Yourself?
Good.
So last time we talked, you had some stuff to talk about pre-login sequences and that sort of thing, and you promised that you would come back and talk more about endpoint security stuff. Is that right?
You got that right.
So what is it?
So in our last episode, our heroes created a Prelog on sequence.
Heroes, I like it.
So with the Prelog on sequence, if you remember, this is where we do the endpoint checks to ensure that it's a trusted device.
Right.
In the sequence we created, we were looking for specifically antivirus and firewall, although you can look for a slew of other things. But we want to tie this in. So the Prelog inspection, while it's powerful to determine if the endpoint is trusted, you really get the power of the entire endpoint security story, really, when you start attaching it to the protected configurations and protected resources. So that's what we'd like to do for this little episode.
All right. Well, let me get in here. Why don't you show me what those are and how they work?
Absolutely. So again, we go down to users, then endpoint security. And if you remember, here's the Prelog on sequence area where we created new sequence. Next, we want to now go to our protected configurations. So protected configurations are more or less tied into the Prelog on sequence. Not more or less, they are. You have to have a Prelog on sequence enabled for FirePass to at least gather minimal data about the device to then be able to create a protected configuration and attach it to a protected configuration.
All right, so there's a bunch of these things. Are these? Did you build all these, or are these custom?
These actually come with FirePass by default.
Got it.
Application access, network access, portal access, and protected logon all come standard. I created this little time one down here. Oh, actually, the time one, I actually misspoke. You do not need a pre-logon setup for time to work.
Interesting. Cool.
So how do we create these? We want to first go here on our top right, new protected configuration.
Right, okay.
And protected ID, new ID, you would name it whatever your fun name is.
So, remember, right?
CTV, baby. That's my description. Now I'm going to get some protection criteria. So we have various ways for protection criteria. We have unauthorized access. So do they have a client certificate? Are they coming from a trusted network? The time interval, which is pretty cool, that I created earlier. We can look for information leaks. Again, are they coming from a trusted network? Do they have a trusted Windows version? Are we doing cache cleaner on the way out? Keyloggers, those pesky kiosks.
Yikes.
Do we want to enable the virtual keyboard? Are we checking registry settings? Is it, again, we're all going back to trusted device. Is it a trusted device? While we care about the user, we want to make sure that the box itself And then virus risk, which we talked about antivirus before. So this one I'm going to do the virus risk, whatever. Antivirus, add. Add. So here's how it works. So within antivirus, we click this little side thing, which gives us the trusted antiviruses that we're looking for.
So you can select which antiviruses you're going to look for here.
Yep. Now remember in the Prelog on sequence, you would say any supported or none supported or your 3 options that go up and down. In this situation, you would just check them.
Because it had the list built before, right?
Built before, absolutely.
And this one is going to be a custom list.
Yeah, just check marks. But again, you can get an idea of all the vendors that are available. So I'm going to hit save on that one. And so now we have our antivirus safety check set up.
Got it.
Now what I want to do is go to a protected resource.
Which
now,
you're just looking at, right?
So your resources, so the protected configurations are then the protection criteria that you set.
So did that show up, or do the new one show up here?
The new one should show up down on the, yeah, thank you for, where'd it go?
I don't know. You made it.
I did make it. It's gone now.
It's gone. Okay. So it doesn't show up there.
No, it should have shown up here.
It should have shown up there, but it didn't show up there.
Yeah, cancel. Let's create another one.
Let's create another one.
Oh, you know what I probably didn't do? Let's create another one. Let's do time, since that one's pretty cool. Time.
Again, baby. Yeah.
Baby. Protection criteria. Oh, you know why I didn't.
Time already exists.
Oh, okay. So, time 2. Nice. Electric Boogaloo. Save. That's what I didn't probably do.
Ah, hit the save button.
Hit the save button.
That's tricky. I understand.
Time 2. So now I'm going to click on this, which then brings up time 2 again, my protection criteria.
So now you guys set the protection criteria. Got it.
And time interval, this is pretty cool. Time interval, add. And I'm going to select this. And I'm going to say any day of the week. Actually, let's just choose Sunday.
Oh, really? So
from any time to any time. So this is great for contractors. So you maybe you have a contractor that's on your payroll from 9 to 5. And Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. Sunday is probably not a good example, but you maybe set up, the Monday through Friday situation. 9 to 5 is when they're able to get on.
And so anytime other than that is going to stop them from logging in.
They won't be able to log on. Right.
Interesting.
So we set the time, and we saved it. Now, what was save?
Saving's good.
Saving's important because
like that.
Sometimes computers really don't know what you're thinking up in your head unless you tell them to save it.
Check next to the unauthorized access set up, right?
Yep, that one's set up.
Okay.
We go back to our protected configurations. We now have time 2.
2, yeah.
Okay. Now what we want to do is go to our resources. Our resources are the favorites for the end user. So
the things you're going to protect.
The things we're going to protect. So if I log on as a user. Ooh, oh, did I log on as the admin? Oops. Let's log on as a user. Oh, look, it's checking everything again because I still have it enabled.
Well, that's good, right?
Yeah. That's good. I'm trusted. I trust myself.
Well, why shouldn't you? You're a good guy.
Do not. Yay!
Okay, so those are all your actual...
So these are all my resources. I have Windows files, I have terminal servers, I have various network access connections, app tunnels.
Those are broken out by groups over there, sure.
Yep, so these are all my resources. So if I go back here, and my resources, I'm going to say, well, for network access, as we were talking about, here are all the network access connections that are available. I'm going to select these.
Select all of them.
Select the resources for network access.
Oh, they individually check.
Individually check. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that one, SD rack, and I'm going to give it the time 2 protected configuration.
Ah, a little shield in the whole bit.
Yep, I go back. You can then maximize the bring this tree down, and you'll see that SD rack time 2.
Sure.
Go back to this home. SD rack is now gone.
Really?
Now let's go back here for a second. So you see we have SSA access.
Yeah. Network access.
Oh no, lab rack. Did I do lab rack?
No, you did SD rack.
Yep, SD rack.
And so it's gone out of that list.
It's gone out of, actually, you know what?
Now you've made it so that even though that user has the login credentials to get into the system and onto the network resources, because it's not the right time.
Exactly. It's not Sunday between midnight and 11:59.
Then they can't get to that particular resource.
Correct. So you can set it up in a couple of ways. You can set it up to log on. So if they're not coming in a certain time, you don't even give them the log on page.
They can't get in at all.
They can't get in at all. Or you would attach it to a favorite, a resource, and say, well, you can log on,
but you can only get what I tell you.
But you can only get what I tell you. Maybe we only give them a portal page. We only give them the intranet, but we're not going to give them a full layer 3 connection on Sunday.
You can check your email, but you can't get to the VPN.
Exactly. You can't have full network access if it's on Sunday and you're a contractor.
Nice.
Try again tomorrow. You'll be within the time, and that favorite will be available for you.
I like it.
That's protected configuration.
So that's how it ties in. So you were saying last time, right?
Right.
You use the same kind of checks, but you can do it on a much more granular level.
Absolutely. And then tie them to the resources. So the pre-log on inspection, it all is the theme of endpoint security. So pre-log on inspection is specifically checking the device. Is it a trusted device? Do we know where it's coming from? Those sorts of things. And then oftentimes based on those checks, you would then protect your resources individually to determine if you want them available or not to the user.
I like it. Very cool.
Very cool.
So I appreciate the demo. Is that all you need to show us for this?
That's all we need to show you for this one.
Cool. Well,
Anytime.
We'll be back for more.
Absolutely.